Real estate. We're talking this evening, and I've got Amanda Phillips, Queen of Sherman, right here, right? Doing all the
Yeah.
things. Absolutely. We're just not wearing the tiara tonight. And we've got Kris Spiegel, who is the former Denison City Councilman and has worn plenty of hats himself, running his ranks through the city of Denison in different capacities. So, welcome both of you to this evening's chat. And Amanda, I didn't even give you props. We know each other because we are the ones that are in the trenches. I think that sometimes I have to question whether or not our sanity is all there, but we're realtors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah. let's go. So you guys are here this evening because obviously Grayson County is maybe not the best kept secret anymore here in North Texas. And that's both exciting and a little scary for your residents and for different people that's going on. But the exciting part is there's tons of development that is pushing economic growth, opportunity for your residents, investors, staycation opportunities, so on and so forth, which obviously does benefit both Denison and Sherman and its sister cities. So, let's first kind of go into Amanda. You and I met through serving in different realtor advocacy parts. We were actually just lamenting over our wonderful conference that we're going to. We are going to have so much fun, but
So much fun.
it's in our blood to sit there and not only sell real estate, but also advocate for continued homeownership growth, making sure that our communities continue to thrive, and so on and so forth. So, Amanda, kind of give me a little bit of synopsis. Yeah, that's Ruben. He's one of our most decorated members at MetroTex and
Welcome,
Country
Ruben.
Ambassador.
I'm
Yes,
over here reading all of this. My
I know.
goodness.
I saw it. I was like, don't do it. You'll be here forever. Because Ruben has probably more designations than our whole membership combined. He is a consummate learner himself. So,
Hey, okay.
um, so, so Amanda, though, give me just a little bit of history. You guys have been in the Sherman area almost a couple of decades now, and
Yep.
what has been your experience there so far?
So I've been in real estate for 16 years, 16 and a half now, because we always track it because I was pregnant with our daughter when I started in real estate. So she'll
Yeah.
tell you she's 16 and a half, which means I've been in business for 16 and a half years. And yeah, what we've watched in the Sherman Denison real estate market is nothing but appreciation, right?
Yep.
So when I started, the average sales price around here was about $85,000 a year, and then 5 years ago it was $150,000, and then today we're sitting right around $300,000.
Wow.
So yeah, real estate is fun right now. It was real fun a couple of years ago, and it's settled back down to just fun right now.
Just
But yeah,
fun.
that's kind of how it's gone over the last 15 years. Is I guess you would call that a triple since we started.
A triple. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, and Kris, you are, like I said, a former councilman with the city of Denison, but you've worked in P&Z, other land use groups, and your background is in some commercial development as well. So, what's been your experience over, I guess, like the last decade or so of your service with Denison?
Well, it's pretty wild. Back in 2012 is when we kind of made the mark on Denison. We moved up here at the end of 11, and I think we were talking about the other day. In 2014 was kind of when the snowball started. Right, we all kind of saw it coming, but it was just infancy. And that year we had 12 housing permits. In the city of Denison.
Wow.
Right.
Total,
And
not like for
over
January. Total.
12 for the whole year.
Yeah.
And permits were not that much higher, just for different remodels and things like that. And
Yeah.
I was just looking at a slide the other day, and we had over 300 housing permits, last year, which relative to some of the other communities around us is still not that much, but it's a lot for Denison, Texas, and we're proud of that. And obviously we have some huge developments on the cusp that we'll probably get to here in a little bit, and we're really excited about what's been going on. But people don't realize that this has been a 20 years in the works to get here. And I remember when I moved here, my father-in-law at the time said, we're just on the edge of the Metroplex. And I'm thinking, no, we're 60 miles from the Metroplex. That's the way it felt when I was driving to Dallas, you know.
Yeah.
And being a Temple, Texas kid, you know, I'd watched that. We talked about that as far as the growth coming up from Austin towards the Temple area. And, you know, and we used to say the same thing, you know, 30 years ago. And now it is almost touching. And the same thing's happening for Grayson County. And it's pretty exciting times.
Well, and to touch on that, you know, they call us kind of the Twin Cities, kind of like in Minnesota now, because you have, you know, St. Paul and Minneapolis, and now it's Dallas and Frisco, right? Like you're either commuting around that pocket in North Texas or commuting around Dallas. And so you guys basically being adjacent, you know, to one of the fastest growing areas in the country, you know, have been smart and strategic in your growth and have capitalized on that and then have done your own path at the same time. I mean, I literally will sit there and say, hey, I'm going to run up to Sherman really quickly. I'm like, who runs up to Sherman really quickly? I mean, I would much rather drive to Sherman than to Dallas.
Right.
And I think that's what a lot of people are feeling that way as well. And so before we actually go in deep on these different projects, I think some of the ones that obviously people have noticed the most is the TI and Globotech plants that have been announced in Sherman. And then, of course, the big one that didn't just come out of thin air, except we all think it did, was the Margaritaville surprise, the Margaritaville development in Denison. So let's start off first with the semiconductor plants, because I think that was kind of the first thing where investors probably started to really pique their interest, going, you know, from an investment strategy side, the additional jobs and need for, you know, quality, affordable housing and different things like that really started to kind of develop. And that was a little over like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Kind of in that, yeah.
Just over 2 years ago. So the phase 1 of TI is being built. You're driving 75. You can look over to your left as you're coming north, and it is actually a building now. Like it has sides on it, which
the real deal.
Yeah, you don't really understand how large it's going to be. Like last year, we heard several speeches of how many cranes were there, and if you drove by at any given time, there was anywhere from 12 to 17 cranes, and you're like, yeah, it's a lot of cranes. But now that it has walls on it, it's insane to see. And this is just phase 1. So phase 1 is 1.5 million square feet and is scheduled to be complete August of 2025. And that's a semiconductor factory, a clean room, and then supporting buildings. And then there are 3 other phases to still be built. And then Globotech is moving. I feel like Globotech's moving faster than TI is, which it kind of has to, because they make the silicone wafers that have to go to TI for the fabrication, right? So it's going to be a 3 million square foot facility when it's done, and 1,500 jobs. And I think it's scheduled to be open around the same time as the first phase of TI is, which obviously makes sense.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So all of that was announced, and then suddenly everyone knew where Sherman was. Everyone knew where Sherman was.
You beat out Singapore. I mean, of course they knew what Sherman was.
We did. They're like, Singapore, Sherman, you know. But yeah, the amount of phone calls and how quickly land suddenly sold. Like land that had sat there forever, like the signs were faded on it. And just gone. It was crazy how quickly things went. And then just the true investors looking at it to say, you know, all of the ancillary people that have to come in before the place is even built, you know, our rental properties sold super quickly.
No, that's amazing. So that's ton on the manufacturing and infrastructure side, which Sherman has had a lot of that went on more from the industrial and manufacturing side as well. And so it just continues to develop there. And then Kris, you know, Denison's kind of grown in a different capacity. I mean, we've talked about how amazing the downtown in Denison is. during the holidays. It's a little Hallmark movie with hot cocoa tents and ice skating and, all of these other things. And, you guys really kind of wanted to grow in tandem with being known for more tourism and different opportunities there. So I think it's neat that, you guys have grown kind of side by side, but in very different pathways. And of course, now with Margaritaville, I think Amanda was giving you a hard time because did you really need another winery? I mean, you have to, so you guys seem to be the fun police or something, in Sherman, and then you go and have the fun in Denison. But Kris, let's talk about
town. Yeah, for sure.
It's the party town. So talk to us a little bit about Margaritaville and what kind of that path has been to this announcement here last month.
Sure. And well, to your point, as far as we have been really focused on quality of life in our development choices. Now, at the same time, do we need the rooftops and we need, all of the things. And we're also working on our economic development team, is working on industrial investments all the time. The difference is, though, the infrastructure and the requirements and the amenities that Sherman does offer and the population they offer makes it a very attractive site, and so we always support any way we can, whether it's teaming up with Sedco or what have you. But we have been blessed in somewhat being the, we want to be the city of choice, as the mayor coins that term a lot and uses that term a lot. And because we have the lake, because we do have some very nice amenities that speak to quality of life, like we've been really focused on our hike and bike trails, and that's been a major focus for years. But then you take it and you look at the city of Denison proper, and now in conjunction with Margaritaville, it's really a greater development than that, right? Margaritaville is the splash. That's the thing that everybody's excited about. That's what makes the cover of the newspaper. But the truth is, it's really Craig International, David Craig, and the team down there in McKinney that's coming up to do the overall master plan community. So we're talking 7,500 rooftops, 320 slip marina, plus a Margaritaville. And the Margaritaville is kind of icing on top, right? And I think it's going to parallel from a enjoyment of the lake. And this speaks to everybody from Dallas North, because there's a lot of people that have been coming to Texoma from the Dallas area that have boats. I mean, there's thousands of boat slips on Texoma, right? And those are not all owned by Grayson County residents, I promise. The $1 million yachts are not all right here local. But I have talked to many people, like when Baylor graduates that I've met at football games, and they're like, "Oh, we've been coming to Texoma for years." And it's like, I'm like, "Well, have you ever been to Denison?" They're like, "No," because we just went straight up 289, and they don't know where Denison. They might know where Denison and Sherman are, but they don't really capture it. So we've been focused on, bringing in options that will attract that Metroplex, clientele to be able to come down to the wineries. I think that's why Landon made the choice to make the investment that they have in Denison. Landon Wineries has been a great partner. They're on Main Street. Now they're going to have the new winery up by the travel center. We've got several others that, I don't need to mention them all, but Homestead's been a great city partner, another winery. They're on Main Street. And then we've got the brewery aspect, and then, the dining and the downtown. So we're hoping that in partnership with the Preston Harbor development, which that's the 20-year development, right? We've been working on that. I mean, forever, it feels. And back in, you'd mentioned 2014 earlier, we were kind of talking about that being the cusp. I mean, I believe 2014 was when we did the land swap with the Corps of Engineers to allow the original developer, George Schuler, to get that 9.5 miles of shoreline. I mean, 9.5 miles of shoreline is a significant.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, from any realtor on this call, they're thinking that's a lot of houses you can build along there. And there's going to be a link, I think we're going to share later with a overall of that development and what it's going to look like. There's going to be a senior living element to it. And then there's going to be some really nice custom homes. In fact, I talked to the city manager this afternoon, and he said those are going to range from like 1.3 to 10 million on the luxury side.
Can we afford the senior living side? I mean,
right.
I just go ahead and put my name on the list now. Maybe I can afford it by the time I become a senior.
Right. Yeah. So luckily, I think that's going to be a 55 and up. There's going to be about 3,000 of those.
Well, I was closer than I thought.
Right. We still have a few years. But then there's going to be a luxury side, and then there's going to be kind of an entry. I mean, there's going to be all elements in this. And then, as we talked about, the really splash is going to be the Margaritaville, which is going to be at the top of the development up on the actual point. And what's really funny about it is that it will be looking across the lake at the Hard Rock,
Hard Rock.
which was announced up in Oklahoma. From the east, from the eastern side of Lake Texoma, the development potential there, all the way from Sherman through Denison, all the way up through like Cartwright, up to Kingston, I think there's just unlimited potential of what's going to happen.
I think it's amazing, and it's not exactly the same, but I mean, it was, in the year 2000, people looked at you like, Frisco,
100%.
it's like farmland. Like, what are you doing driving through Frisco? And that's crazy, but it's somebody had to pioneer, that growth. And then you look at the very different strategic growth for all of those adjacent cities. I mean, Allen, McKinney, Frisco, Plano, all have very different identities in how the growth patterns work. And that's what I think is amazing. It's the same thing with you guys. You might not have the exact same culture, but I think that's what's great is that there's a draw for everyone. Amanda, you're the school spirit person, advocating for bonds. You forgot I know she won.
I forgot my Denison shirt tonight.
It's Sherman Denison basketball tonight, baby. Yes.
Yeah, my oldest is headed over to cheer.
Okay.
Yeah. No, so that's great, and that's really a passion of yours is to really work and give back to the school district, and you championed a big bond package that passed not too long ago, and so that's something that Sherman obviously is really putting a lot of emphasis on. So what does that look like from that side? I mean, as Kris was talking about, you guys have been a little bit more focused on rooftops in Sherman and development of that over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in tandem, that means the schools are going to need to grow along with it.
Yeah. So we have some elementary schools that kids are in right now that are way, way, way past the age that any kid should be in these schools. We sat down and looked at our oldest buildings and rolled out a bond last year that passed as the largest victory margin of any bond vote ever. That just tells you how much we needed it. So coming groundbreaking. I was at a booster meeting last night, and they said we're actually breaking ground on the stadium in a few weeks, hopefully. So we're getting a new stadium. We have the field. That came with the last bond, but we need the stadium with the seating. It'll seat 8,000 to 10,000 people in it, and that's not just for our football and sports. It's so that we can host playoff games for other smaller schools that are around here. Then with the interesting part of sitting on all of those committees with the school was the demographers report showing how many more kids are going to be in school in 5 years, 10 years. And I mean, these numbers they're big. And so if we have schools that are already too crowded, what's it going to, and it takes, 2 years to build anything. What are we going to do? So I'm really proud that our school jumped on it and saw we need to get ahead of this. So we're adding 2 brand new elementary schools. Each one and anything else that we build, the minimum it holds is 700 kids. Like we have schools now that only hold like 300 kids. So doubling the size of some of these schools. And then our older schools, Fairview Elementary and Crutchfield, will be an entire new school will be built, and then the old schools will come down and make parking in front of them. So that's the first focus is those elementary schools because the kids are coming, and that's where the city is focusing. We can go eat in Denison and have all the wine that we want, thankfully. Thank you, Denison, for providing the entertainment and the food because Sherman is focusing on the infrastructure, water, sewer treatment plant, roads, new roads out to what was cattle land that will now be, 300 rooftop neighborhoods in a few short years. There are currently 8,000 approved platted homes already through P&Z to be built in Sherman, and new developers are at the P&Z meetings every month. So we have a new CIP website where you can actually track all the projects going on in Sherman. I think we dropped that in the chat. So I just bookmarked it on my home screen on my phone so that I can click on it, open it, see what the new stuff is, see where they are in the progress, how much they've built. It's a really cool, just kind of all-inclusive site. It'd be really good for anybody that has developers that are watching Sherman,
Sure.
investors that are watching Sherman. It's a really comprehensive thing. So, but yeah,
Yep.
we're doing the not sexy stuff, but eventually maybe we'll get a winery. Who knows?
Maybe you get something else. No, so no, that's the funny part. We'll focus on pickleball over wineries, maybe, Amanda.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
that way
we
you can
do have 6 new pickleball courts in Sherman. We do have that.
Yeah.
Thank you,
big.
Sherman Parks and Recreation.
That's big.
So go ahead, Kris.
Well, I was going to say, I never, one thought would be is that so infrastructure important for both communities. We've got to both, be at that level. And we've actually been working on that for years as well. Right there, just kind of, like we did our elementary schools a couple years ago and just finished, blowing those up to, from 300-400 campuses.
We have a great new high school too. Like our high schools are amazing.
Yeah, no, and we've been blessed. Like we had the foresight, our ISD leaders, and I've always stayed on the city side and the chamber side and the business side, and my wife takes the lead on the school district side. So she just got done steering the bond committee for us, and so we're bringing in a new 7th, 8th grade center. New 5th and 6th grade center, and we did build a new high school, but that was back in 2013, I think we started that, and then 2015. So.
Feels so long. I mean, like that feels like yesterday, though.
I know, and it feels brand new when you still go into it. And it is a phenomenal facility up on North, and it's amazing because what people don't realize is that we knew the Preston Harbor development would one day happen. It was too big of an investment not to happen one day. But back in 2013, 2014, so we already have an elementary site that'll be across the street from that on 406. That's in Denison ISD.
And the Preston Harbor is AKA Margaritaville, right?
It is.
Okay.
And I just want to, honestly though, the realtors on this chat or on this podcast, they can't sell anything at Margaritaville. They can only sell the houses in front of it, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
so
the
Preston
truth
Harbor.
is, so Preston Harbor really needs to be their focus, in my opinion, because Margaritaville is where we're going to all go party together. But the truth is that we can't make any money on Margaritaville. You know what I mean? Individually. But yeah, so
point.
the vision of the whole Preston Harbor, we ended up 15, 16 years ago. There was a family that, we did a land agreement with them, and we're going to build an elementary school. I was talking to the city manager this afternoon, just kind of getting a few talking points on just kind of refreshing, and we've already got a planned joint fire and police department that'll be out there as a part of the Preston Harbor development. So we'll have that protection. And one thing that's really significant for Denison and for investors is, as of last month, Denison just got re-rated as a ISO 1 because of the outstanding work of our fire department. So you might do a little homework on that, but we went from a 3 to a 1, which is like unprecedented. The state association, insurance office showed up, presented it. Really exciting for anybody that's living or investing in Denison, Texas, because to go from a 3 to a 1 will result in significant savings on your insurance costs. And as a former commercial insurance agent and personal lines, I promise you, it was getting out of control because we need something to offset the hail losses up here. Let's just be real.
As someone who deals with insurance on the reg, something's got to happen with insurance.
And I'm sure everybody that's on here that has sold a house in Grayson County has dealt with a hail claim on, an existing home contract. And a lot of houses get a new roof when they get sold, and it's a beautiful thing. But it's something we got to deal with. And that is the downside, of the hail and wind losses that we have in North Texas. But I will tell you that ISO rating is going to be significant. I believe Sherman's sitting at a 2 still, which is outstanding. And I'm sure. It usually takes them about 6 months.
I'm going to call it Mayor Plyler right now.
Yeah, I guarantee you. Don't worry, Ashley. In 6 months, they'll figure it out, and they'll have a big announcement about becoming a tier 1.
We'll be the number 1.
That's the next thing that Amanda.
1 minute.
Yeah, Amanda's gonna champion that.
Hold, please.
Yeah. So, sorry, my face is red now. I was trying to figure out how to coat that. I just couldn't figure it out quick enough.
I love it.
I'm here for it. Let's go.
I know. It's so much fun because, and I will tell you this is the best thing about Amanda Phillips and I and the other leadership that's currently in Sherman and Denison. this generation, our generation, Ashley, is so Denison and Sherman has struggled for a long time with the rivalry because the old guard, it was like, we're not going to help Sherman. We're not going to help Denison. We're not going to go eat in Denison. We're not going to go eat. I mean, it was crazy. And luckily, it was all, I mean, we've got the longest high school football rivalry in the state. Maybe in the nation.
Doris tells me every time we close about the rivalry too.
Oh, it's a huge thing, and we won't talk about that, Amanda. I don't want to lose a friend tonight.
Let's move on. Move on.
I mean, there's kids in Sherman ISD that have never held the axe, like that were born a long time ago. So we don't want to talk about that.
Daughter.
But what I will tell you is that the current leadership, I mean, the Sean Tiemans of the world that I hold dearly, we are all wanting to work together. And I see this as that regional development happens and the new people that are in charge, as they continue to move into different positions within our county, within our cities, we're going to make some great things happen. And so from a development investment standpoint, if I were going to tell you, like, my confidence in the partnership between City of Denison and City of Sherman is at a new time high. Like, I don't want to say all time because it's going to even get better, but I want to say a new time high in the hundreds of years of history. And we just celebrated our 150th anniversary. Y'all were 175th, right, Amanda, this last year?
Yes.
And so, but I'm telling you, there's 149 years of heartache, you know what I mean, between the cities. And so but I mean, the current leadership, you can see it. Our city manager has lunch with their city manager on the monthly, every time they're talking, we're trying to figure out how to do. I just went on the Greater Texoma Utility Authority Board, which does a lot of Sherman's infrastructure financing. So I'm getting to see that on the backside, and Denison, is working with them as well. And so, but it's just really cool to see how everybody's starting to work together, and we're heading on a good
definitely Sherman Denison. Like it's all one word. Like I sell all of it. We just razz each other. There's questions.
I know. I'm going. Hold on. I know there's questions in the chat. So, Abe, hopefully you figured out that Amanda was talking about Sherman. Reese says he's got Sherman by 10 tonight, Amanda.
Let's go, Reese. Let's go.
Yes. Yeah.
It was a good game last time.
It was a good game. I think they won by like 7 or something. So
Okay, so we'll see. But Krishna, who is an awesome advocate in the leasing and property management space and a great realtor in the Collin County area, she's hoping Sherman is going to be more investor friendly compared to Anna. Their rental registration fees or Van Alstyne HOA requiring landlords to pay rental fees. Now, Kris, we did discuss this in our pre-show a little bit. And I think this is the interesting part, is because you talk about it from the need from the city side and sitting there and saying, hey, we're not trying to do this to impose, to be the bad guy on investors and landlords. But let's talk about that, because as of right now, Sherman and Denison don't have, rental registration fees, but that obviously doesn't mean that those topics can't circulate back around. So I do want to hear from your perspective. Why was that even a conversation at one point in Denison?
So, I mean, the biggest thing is to empower our code enforcement and our fire department. I mean, they can't, and the real purpose was to be able to do some inspections on these rental properties as they're changing hands, because there's no one there to advocate for the renter. Now, I would expect that everybody that's on this call tonight they're
all upstanding people.
Right. It's going to be responsible landlords. It's going to be, people that care about people, et cetera. But we don't always deal with people that care about people when it comes to landlords. And, we have, I hate to use the word, but we have a lot of slumlords that have been historically here. And like we were talking about the other day, when you talk about homes that people have not turned over in 10, 15, 20 years, and no one's been inside of them, and no one's been doing maintenance on them, that's a problem, and so we were trying to figure out how to empower our code enforcement to be able to go in, and we're just focused on life safety. We're not going in and nitpicking the fact that you don't have crown molding, or that you didn't paint the baseboards, or that, that maybe there's no, frills on the house. It's not about that. It's really about life safety issues is what our focus is on. We got met with staunch pushback. Now, I too am a landlord. I have a few tenants, and I try to be a good landlord. And I want to provide a quality product. But I went in, I didn't lease a house that I just bought and put someone in. Like I went in and 100% remodeled it, and even those still have issues, but they're not life safety issues. They may be convenient or comfort creature comforts. So that was our whole purpose, but it really did get a lot of pushback, and specifically from our multifamily owners, and which I understand. And most of I say most, a few of our multifamily owners are outstanding, and we have some really bad performers. And Sherman has one that's consistent with ours, like the same owner, that they shouldn't be allowed to own
the water
property.
Shut off.
Yeah, I mean, like we literally turned their water off because they haven't paid their bill. And I mean, the place
was an apartment complex, not a house, an apartment complex.
Correct. And these guys own multiple, and they're a bad offender, and they're going to work the system, and it's just part of it. But I will tell you that I do feel like I noticed the question as far as, being friendly, we're definitely investor friendly. I think we're trying to become developer friendly through the use of planned developments, et cetera. And so we definitely want investors here, but we also want to be cautious, because I will tell you one thing that came up during our which one was it? Land use plan. I think it was a land use plan committee that I served on, is that we have a significant number of rentals versus single family ownership. And so, I mean, we were teetering on that 40-60 split, 40% rentals, and that's a lot. And so that's one challenge that we've had, being somewhat of a blue collar community historically, because of the railroad, because of some of the industries. Yeah. And we have a lot of those retirees here, but now through the turnover is kind of what I don't like to use some of the other terms that people use in terms of that, but we do have an age. Yes. I mean, at one point, Grayson County was the second oldest county in the state of Texas. I don't know where we sit now. Amanda, have you looked at that stat?
I don't know that either.
But it was us in Cook County.
I don't realize we're a retirement county that's getting growth. So.
Correct. And so incomes have been fixed for umpteen years. The railroad, they set and they provided a nice retirement for a period, but even that has not kept up with inflation, obviously. And so when you think about that we had this huge population of people that retired here that were not in the workforce. And so they're not, not necessarily, I hate to say the word not contributing, but they're not contributing to the economic growth of the area. And if you look at our population, it's been static since 1970. So 50 plus years, and our population's either been static or on the decline. And this is the first time in the last decade that we are on the upswing. So it's kind of interesting.
Well,
opportunity.
No, it is. It is opportunity. And I think as a Krishna and I are fellow property managers. And again, I got into the space because of all the bad actors. Yeah. Because I'm sitting there helping my investors buy quality properties in Grayson County, and then trying to interview the different property management companies to see which one's in alignment. And not all are bad, but they still weren't in alignment with how I did business and my clients were accustomed to doing business. And so it was finally like, well, freak, move out of the way. I'll do it. Now I say that, but I actually looked at my husband and said, no, you'll do it. So he actually manages our, you do it, Reese.
I like Chris's idea. Like, screen the property management company, screen the landlord. In Sherman, we've got a thing just for our water. Like, you get screened, and then you can have an account where I can just call now. I don't have to go in. Something as simple as that, to screen who's managing it, to where then you don't have to maybe be so harsh on kind of like global entry when you're traveling. If you go through the screening process, it's a lot easier on the regular travel.
You get your TSA pre-check. Right. Get a good human, and then you can fast track. Well, and that's probably a good opportunity. We again can't help ourselves, but everybody sitting here on the screen right now continues to get involved in other capacities. And I serve at Metrotex, the Realtor Association, and meet with different city planners and managers and council people. But my husband is now, on the NARPM track, which is the National Association of Property Managers. And they're constantly having these conversations of what can we do? What can we do to snuff out the bad actors and continue to have that core value system? Because property managers, it's business, but it's the ones that I know, they deal with their tenants with empathy. It's not a charity, but there's empathy. Those are human beings that are living in those properties. And so there has to be a mechanism. And I don't know what type of screening or anything else. I think these type of conversations are happening. But I think this is something that probably does need to look at more of, like Better Business Bureau or something else like that, where there can be a rating system for that. So
for those of y'all that are looking in Grayson County, we currently don't have any of that in place, but we also didn't have impact fees like 3 years ago, and now we have impact fees. So give it a minute. It's like we are, as it grows, we're getting all of these. So if you want to get grandfathered in, jump in now.
Yeah, right. No, and Tiva, I think that's, there's a difference between, like you were saying, Kris, of life safety concerns and then also revenue sources. And I think that every city is looking at different strategies and how, as they're growing and have to fund the not sexy stuff, the infrastructure, the water, the drainage and retention and all of those other things, there's a cost associated with that. So something else that we've talked about is, and I love that you guys talked about the fact that you were really a retirement and retirement community and corridor up there, largely affordability, but also, Texoma. So many of them just loved being near the lake and having that lifestyle change for retirement purposes. But now we're seeing a plethora of people finding Grayson County as wanting to be their next home, whether it's workforce needs because they're coming in and building, the infrastructure for the new factories and, the new things, the home developments that are going on. We also have people that are, just admittedly being pushed out of Collin County, and the affordability factor there. And we're seeing that a lot on the tenant side, when, it's $2,000 a month for a, 1,100 square foot 2-bedroom that hasn't been updated in 15 years. And then you can go up there and get something brand new, for the same price point, an extra 500 square feet. And so it is attractive. But to your point, the rental versus, own percentage does have to kind of flatten out. So Kris, is there something on the Denison side that they're looking at to maybe try to help create a better balance of the two?
Well, part of it is adding additional inventory, right? So the development that they're building now, if you take like Gateway Village, for instance, that's one of our newest developments that their team did. And, majority of those are going to price you out of a rental market for Grayson County. Now, you could rent that house in Allen, Texas, or Lucas, Texas, or, Lovejoy or the school district or what have you.
Right.
Parker, they would rent there. But these houses, for the typical Grayson County renter, they're going to be price point out because they're going to be, what would you say, Amanda, $2,700 to $3,500 for a Gateway Village type home?
Yeah.
And so when you think about that, so the more inventory we add to our, originally we were at about 9,000 to 10,000 doors, and I can't remember what the exact number is now because we've been adding 200 or 300 per year for several years now. But let's just say we're headed towards 10 to 11. When all of a sudden you add the Preston Harbor type development, and that they're talking about, just so y'all understand too, that's 7,500 doors planned, and they're planning on building a minimum of 500 per year with a goal of getting to 750. So it's still a 10 to 15 year build out at the end of the day. And we understand that. And that's just part of it. We, in my personal life where my day job, we work in a lot of these developments that are down in Salina, Princeton, Farmersville, and some of these master plan, like the Mantua Points, that's there in Van Alstyne / Anna, those developments that are multi-phased, even they take time. They announce 4,000 homes, but it takes 7-8 years to build out that. And so we kind of expect the same time frame with this, but just once, and they're talking about breaking ground this year, just so everybody understands that too. And the statement has been made that they hope to have the first home living in by 2026 to kind of give everybody a time frame. So that's 2 years.
So fast.
It's so fast. And
I know it's fast.
It's crazy. And so it's really exciting from that standpoint. And so I think that you'll see that percentage shift, even if majority of the existing inventory, even if it starts shifting to more rentals, you'll offset it because you're going to double the population. You're going to double the rooftops. And so I think they'll always maintain that balance. Amanda, do you know what y'all's percentage in Sherman is as far
I
as rentals
don't.
versus
I
owned?
don't. I can just tell you in my 16 years of selling houses, Denison just didn't have the inventory, right?
Correct.
Because as soon as y'all built something, we sold it all, like all of
Yes.
it. Every time y'all break ground on a new neighborhood, it sells. People want
Yes.
to live in Denison. There's just parts of Denison that don't offer the houses that people were looking for. And now that you're actually adding them and building them, I think it just shows how much people want to be there if you have the product for them to live in.
Right. Well, it was amazing. So yesterday I met a young man. He was a few years younger than me. I say
So
young,
he's
relatively.
22.
Yeah,
22.
He was having babies, so he's in his 30s. But he was within a decade, and so. But they were a Richardson family, lived in that east side of Richardson, where they're remodeling all the 70s and 80s built homes, and I just happened to meet him. It was a Facebook Marketplace transaction, and so we're talking, and he said, "Now, where are you from?" He said, "You live here local," and I was commenting on the elementary school. I have some friends that have kids there, and I said, "No, I'm actually up in the Denison Sherman area." He was like, "Oh, we just went up there a couple weekends ago. My wife works for TI here in Plano, and we were looking at maybe we might want to move up there if she had the opportunity to transfer jobs." He was like, "That drive was so easy." He goes, "I mean, we were like 45 minutes from Richard," and I was like, "And that's the thing, And I've told this story several times. He commented on, and then he talked about investing in a secondary home, and he was asking me about Lake Texoma.
Yep.
He's like, "Should I buy on the Oklahoma side? Should I buy on the Texas side?" And we talked about the pluses and minuses and Airbnb and all that kind of stuff. And he said, "Because we've been going to Broken Bow for the last several years." And I said, it's so funny because my buddy that I was referencing in his neighborhood, made fun of me pre-COVID for taking my family to Broken Bow, Oklahoma for a little getaway weekend. He was like, we would never take our family to Oklahoma for a vacation, and now, like all of these residents of the, Richardson, I mean, one of the buddies was in Colleyville, and now they're telling me about this great place they discovered up in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. Well, the same thing's kind of happening at Texoma. It's happening up at Lake Sardis in Oklahoma, which is about 2 hours more north. That's kind of like one of the future Broken Bow locations from what I'm hearing. And so, but the development that we're seeing and the acceptance by our generation, that's the other thing, is that, there is such a need for the 30-something-year-old, and it's a perceived need. I'm not saying it's reality, but to have that escape, right? They're not satisfied with just living in the neighborhood like maybe we did as children. Our escape was going to the local lake. It was not looking for a lake house. It was just we're going to take our boat or we're going to take our camper and we're going to go to the local lake. But this next generation, millennials, they need to have a lake house. Like that's the difference. You know what I mean? And they're going to make room in their budget though, because a lot of them are high power earners, and they're going to make room in their budget to make it happen. And that's the one thing I've noticed. Like my little brother's 7 years younger than me. He is a full blown millennial. I'm right at the tail end of Gen X. And they prioritize vacation. They prioritize vacation homes way more than even their primary home. It's really interesting to me just seeing the difference in priorities and what they do and how they spend their money. And I think that from a real estate standpoint, you're going to see a trend of not only the retirees coming out of the Metroplex, they're going to move north because they're tired of being in the city. They're tired of traffic. But then I think the other side is you're going to see the millennials are going to flock here, and they're going to be wanting to do the Airbnbs. They're going to want to do the flex housing. They're going to want to do the work remote. So that's kind of, I think, what's going to spur. It's going to be a combination of retirees and the younger generation. And then those of us in between are going to just have to get our little piece somewhere along the way,
That's it. What's this in between stuff? I know. I'm like, Amanda loves to travel. So she's got the travel bug and everything else. I'm the one. Yeah, I've got cement feet that I'm good with planting myself.
Well, you just said the drive to Sherman's not bad, so you can come up and go to Texoma.
Oh, you can do that. Absolutely. I think that's the other thing too, is the drivability factor on that. I do have to give a shout out to my child who is watching on YouTube.
I saw her.
Hey, baby. I know. So,
wait. How do they do it? I can't even do it. How they something like can't even make the heart with the. I don't know. I do this. Have you seen that TikTok?
You can do this, right?
Have you seen that TikTok where like we as millennials do this, and then alphas do something else. I don't know.
Is that what they're calling
They
themselves
make
now? Alphas?
Yeah, they're Gen Alpha is 2010 forward.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah,
That explains
You
so
learned
much.
something new, Kris.
I know.
It does.
Crazy
explain
enough,
so
when
much.
I got into real estate, I'm about to date myself. I sat through a whole presentation on how to sell to millennials, that they were going to be the biggest group
Yeah.
of buyers ever when they reached age, and I was like, these millennials are so stupid, and now they're like 35.
I know. Hey, they're smart, but to your point, Kris, I mean, it definitely is a different mindset, and I would like to think that maybe that's because we saw the good and the bad from previous generations to say, hey, I need to do something different. Like you talked about, the railroads offering retirement and different types of blue collar jobs that did have actual retirement plans,
Right.
whereas now there aren't retirement plans.
Nope.
You are your own
And I
retirement
think
plan.
that's
And
where the
so,
investment into a second home comes from. People know,
Yep.
like, the
yeah.
401k is going to get matched 3% a year. Like, that's nothing. Buy
Yeah.
something that you can enjoy, but also will make you money. Like, that's a
Yeah.
no-brainer.
Well, and to that point, a lot of the tail end of Gen X and the bulk of the millennials, majority of those were raised by workaholics. That's all there is to it. I was
Yeah.
raised by a workaholic. I mean, my dad, if I wanted to see him, I went back to the office with him after dinner and would hang
Yeah.
out at his
Yeah,
office
hustle
playing Wheel of
culture.
Fortune
Woo.
on an IBM computer until midnight. And then we would come home
Yeah.
and go to school the next day. And that was just part of it. And so on Saturdays, like, we want to go to the lake when he got home from work, not because he had to. He owned the business, but like, he would go into the
Yeah.
office every Saturday morning. My father-in-law is the same way. And so, but that is that, 65, 70, 75-year generation right there that were, that's just the way most of the successful men in that time frame, they either did that or they made a ton of money in their 40s and 50s and they golfed in their 60s and 70s. I mean, it's like one or the other, right?
For it.
I mean, and I've
Let me
got
do
buddies that
that.
have dads. Yeah, I've got buddies that have dads of both, but the truth is, a lot of us saw our parents, and especially if you came from a two working, as far as husband and wife both working, you definitely have a new appreciation for, being able to spend more time, family time, things like that. I mean, we are the latchkey generation, right? I mean, we were the first generation to come home and have our own key on our key ring. And and luckily I didn't get raised that way, but I know a lot of my friends did. And we wouldn't hung out at their house because their moms weren't there, So
that's a whole nother story.
I know.
So Connie just said, mention your full-time mom that entertains
Oh yeah,
you.
that's
So
my mother.
Hi, Mom.
That's why I say, Mom, I was not one of those latchkey kids, but I did go to several of my buddies' houses that their moms were at work all day. And my mother did do a good job. She taught me how to cook. She taught me schoolwork. She did a lot of
Shout
good
out,
things.
Connie. Good job,
For
Mom.
Sure. For sure. That's so
Yes.
funny.
I love that your mother is on this. I love it.
That's great.
No, but Kris, so my mom's my business partner. Half the time she's the one that's razzing me on here and doing the same thing. But no, I think that's great. And would you imagine, can you believe this? 10 minutes left.
I know.
So, I mean, we sit here and it goes so fast and it's so amazing. So if anybody has last minute questions about something specific to Sherman and Denison or maybe some of the projects, please. There she is. There's my mother, Kris.
Love that your moms are on here. Oh, that makes my mama heart so happy. If my daughter was on a podcast, I would be on it watching too. So good job,
I love
Mom.
it.
I know.
I love it.
So it's great. So definitely drop it in the chat if you have something specific for Amanda or Kris before we turn into a pumpkin and actually Amanda goes to work the concession stand.
And I'm going to watch the same game.
We're going to the basketball
and you're going
game.
to watch the same game.
Yeah, same game.
No, I love that. So I do want to talk about something really quickly from just the sheer investor side. I think is an interesting dynamic because it's the two sides to the coin, right? I mean, as a resident of Sherman and Denison, you don't want to see necessarily outside investment all the time, because you guys have developed like a really amazing culture and an identity in between both communities. And it resonates when you go and visit both. But at the same time, like we talked about, the need for investing in tangible assets. People understand that by buying dirt, that is your retirement plan. And that's something that is going to, a lot of the investors I work with, they're not these big conglomerates. They're not, rolling in the dough. They just understand that this is what's going to build generational wealth, and help them sustain and being able to retire. But it does come into play that there is an abundance of rental product that really kind of has saturated both marketplaces. But what's the tone just community wise from, the multifamily, the duplexes, things of that nature that are, in both of your communities?
Amanda, I'll let you go first.
Okay.
Are you want me to jump in there? You tell me.
It doesn't matter. Well, I can speak slightly on it. Just in the fact we had talked about this the other day, that what we are seeing is a loosening on the P&Z level as these investors are coming in and purchasing single family and requesting to put a multifamily on it. And I love that. I know that that's not it.
Yeah.
That's not for everyone. And no, I don't want my neighbor's house to be torn down and a triplex to go in next to me. But in certain locations, it's needed. You have small houses sitting
Yeah.
on very large lots that could offer 2 or 3 doors where one rundown door is sitting. And so what Sherman has rolled out, it's been with us for a couple of years now, is they have a program that they will actually come and clear your lot. If you have an old house that you're not using, they'll come and clear your lot. The owner gets to retain the lot, and then it gives that owner a product back to be able to sell to, a potential investor.
Sure.
The other side of it is that we are seeing more apartment complexes coming into Sherman, and people don't love that. But
Right.
with the higher paying jobs that are coming to Sherman, what I'm telling people that are here that are worried about it is these will not be low income apartments, because they'll be market rate apartments, because the jobs are coming that will support the people that are living there to be able to pay. I don't know if that's great for everyone that lives here, but any apartments that are coming in are certainly not going to be low income apartments.
Well, and to that point though, there's programs, right? There's programs in the community, the Grayson HUD, and the Housing Authority to help subsidize some of that cost where there are needs and those. And, we work with some of those programs. But the other part of that is that, I say density is not always the dirty word, but you have to understand where you have a single family rental product or even a duplex rental product that's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. That is going to not be as affordable for somebody to be able to live in a 1-bedroom apartment, just because they're on a single income. And I think that we have to be looking, I think we all said this, is we're not demonizing the older generations, but we as this group right here have to be helping build the future for the next 40 to 100 years as well. And those are things that we have to look at. Amanda, you've got a 16-and-a-half-year-old. I've got a 10-year-old,
and I got a 16-year-old too.
I do.
Yeah. So I look at what is it going to look like when they get to that age, whether they're renting or hopefully, have a vehicle to purchase, a pathway to do that. It's not going to look like the same product that we bought our first homes and everything else now. And so, smaller footprints. We need to be looking at that. I've got the cutest 1080 square foot house that I'm about to list. And I'm like, even the photographer called me today. He's like, this is the cutest house. And it works because there was no wasted space. You had a great kitchen and living room. You have, 3 large, I know, Ruben, but for, some of us,
Ruben, you have designations, not children. Designations.
But it's something that we have to look at for future generations regardless. And I think smaller footprints, in the 90s and 2000s, it was like, build them as big as we can. 3,000-4,000 square feet, guys. We can't heat and cool them, but man, we have really tall ceilings and large rooms.
Lots of
and
space.
I think and I think it's going back to, Kris, what you were talking about, which was this next generation is valuing something different. And even my daughter, I was showing her a tiny house the other day. I said, do you think you could live in a tiny house? She was like, yeah, if it was just me and my 92 dogs, that would be fine. And because that's it too. She's gonna have like 92 dogs and her dad's gonna take care of them. But they are looking at things differently. And I think that's where all of us being advocates in the community start to have those dialogues, that maybe it's not just a traditional triplex. Maybe it's building some really amazing retail space with 2 studio apartments above. That's great for somebody, and you've got a coffee shop downstairs, and, you've got this different type of eclectic housing that we can offer that still aids in taxable revenue, still offers a product that's going to be in demand for people that are there. And I think that's what's great. Yeah, Johnny, the small homes are the most expensive and hardest to come by in the hot areas.
That's right,
No,
Johnny.
100%. And
yeah,
actually, to your question as far as Denison and we're definitely looking at getting creative on density, and I know Sherman is as well. I mean, in that land use plan, we touched on it the other day. They're not making any more land. There's only so much land. And
can't annex it anymore. So
that's right. So
can't go scoop it in.
Right. So Texas legislation decided to take that right away from cities, which will probably change at some point in the future again. Like there'll be some soft modification to that. But at the same time, since we are capped in a lot of the cities to our south, I mean, Plano is built out, right? I mean, like there's not a lot of,
we're done.
There's nothing else you can do. And so now, and then if you look at, like, I've got some pals over in like the Cliffs and, over there in, what is it? Preston, why am I drawing a blank on this right now? But over there, like Preston Hollow area. And now they're tearing down single family homes that were built in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and they're building either a McMansion or they're building 2 homes, right? And they can go either way on that. And so you'll see some of that. It's kind of like we talked about the other day with East Austin and what happened over there. And all of a sudden now they're building garage apartments that are maybe being, turned into condos, and you can have 2 owners on 1 lot. And so there's going to be some creativity. We're probably a decade or 2 away from some of that. I mean, I think that it'll start to happen. I think you'll start to see more density throughout the city, especially in kind of the in the regrowth areas, as far as where we're repurposing those lots. You may not see it so much but you're going to see higher density, like in the Preston Harbor. I mean, some of those are going to be 45-foot lots, just like they did in Craig.
Something that Kris nor I have ever seen up here in Sherman Denison area, and it's coming, is the whole lifestyle in your neighborhood. And that's the way that Preston Harbor is going to be. That's the way that Bel Air is going to be on the south side of Sherman. And because it's not there yet, people are like, they can't even imagine what it's going to be like. But you drive down south and you do see that. You see that people live just above their grocery store, coffee shop, dry cleaner, donut shop. Like all that they need is within walking distance. And we don't have that anywhere in Sherman and Denison yet.
Nope.
But these new big developments are going to show people. And then when it's done, they're going to be like, oh, I want to live there. I want to be able to walk and get a salad and get my coffee and pick up my dry cleaning and go back to my house. Like, I'm excited about that. Walkability is not even a word up here yet, but I'm really excited that it's, in the next 10 years, it is going to be. Kobe, I got you. I've got a solution for you. I'll text you.
It is going to skyrocket. I totally agree with that. The other thing that you were talking about, something that we've seen a real surgence on, is on our number of loft dwellers. Like, that's what I call them. But the loft development downtown, and I can't remember, I think we're nearing 100 lofts on Main Street. And we just kicked off a new project. The old peanut building, like where they literally used to process peanuts, is being repurposed, and it's going to be a mixed use. It'll have retail on the first floor. It's going to have some, luxury apartments. It's going to have some lofts. Obviously, they're building a bunch of lofts down at our depot. I realize that from a real estate standpoint, maybe that doesn't benefit, the current audience, but I will, because those are already developed, but you could sell those buildings, right?
Listen, Kris, this is about us. Did you not know?
It's always about the realtor. I won't say what I do, but okay. But what we are seeing is that we're seeing, because of the density, and I saw it yesterday. I was downtown McKinney, and they are building a huge apartment complex just right off of downtown McKinney. I mean, it's huge on Highway 5. but we're starting to see a lot of developers interested in building some higher density stuff just off of Main Street. So the people still have the benefit of, we have the old Central Ward property, Amanda, that's been for sale for a while. And that's one of the ones we've got it's already approved. I don't know when he's going to pull the trigger on it, but it is a significant change for Denison as far as density goes, and more of a townhome complex or concept, I should say. And then we just had another one approved over on, I know complex is not good. We just had another one approved off of Spur 503 the other night at council meeting. And so we're seeing those higher density developments come in. So it's exciting.
Well, I think that's amazing. And I know both of you need to go to these amazing basketball games.
Yes.
We'll let y'all know how it comes out.
Yes, absolutely. Please let us know. But Amanda and Kris, I just appreciate you both because there's so much going on, and being, community leaders and ambassadors for Grayson County. You guys have shared so much with us. It's not just about semiconductor plants and Margaritaville. There's so much that goes into this community, and you guys have been at the forefront for a lot of years, and I know in years to come. So we'll definitely have you back on as these developments continue to grow, and appreciate you both. So go Sherman, go Denison. Y'all have a great time. Amanda, I'll see you Friday, and we'll play some pickleball this weekend.
Do it. Thank y'all.
That sounds great. Hey, and Ashley, last thing I will say, just to give a plug for my buddy Kaya from Costa Rica. I don't know if Parker shared it with you yet or not, the video that he did, documentary on Texas. So for any of the realtors that are, I don't know if you've seen that yet or not, but any of the realtors that are working with people from out of state, I think that this guy captured the heart of Texas better than anybody, and social media is shutting it down. There it is. Okay. Just to give you an idea, Ashley, I shared that link last night, 24 hours ago, for the first time on my Facebook page. I still don't have a single like because Facebook is burying it. Literally. Well,
they're probably going to bury it now since we just shared it on live stream.
It doesn't matter.
Did you just kill the whole podcast, Kris?
No, I'm just telling you, like, social media they're not going to bury you. But I'm just telling you, it's so wild because he is calling out the national media for calling Texas a extremist state, and he does a great job of portraying who we are as Texans. So that's why I share it with this Texas group.
Do it.
Well, thank you. That is who we are. We are Texans.
That's right.
Right?
Give it a big old yeehaw.
We love sports.
All right.
Yeehaw. All right.
Take care.
See you later, guys.
Thank y'all.
Thank you so much.